Okay, looks good. We finished the first side and we flipped the block over and we milled both sides of this block. Now we've also got all of our piston and rod assemblies pressed together here and ready to go. So we got that taken care of. On our mill here, one of the things we need to do is we're also going to chamfer these holes. This is a chamfer, and we didn't cut a whole lot off here. We can still see the numbers present here, the factory number stamp, but we still want to chamfer these holes. That assures that when we put our piston and rod assemblies in, we don't have any issues with a sharp edge here. Now I've already done the other three, so that was the last one. Also, one of the things that I really like to do here, while I got the drill in my hand, this is going to have flat tappet lifters in it. It's a non-roller cam block. It's an early 289. So what we're going to do is I like to run this through the lifter bores just to make sure that there's no rust or anything like that in there. You can see there some of these have a little bit of rust and maybe some burrs in them, so I'll take this and I'll run it through all of those as well just before we take it off the mill. Okay, so at this point I think we're ready to take a look at those heads, and so I'm gonna take the camera from my lovely assistant here, Daniel. He's gonna walk over there, and what we're gonna do is we've got one of the cylinder heads here. Now this was a cylinder head that had big rust problem in the cylinder, so we're going to go ahead and take those out. Go ahead and take those out, Daniel. This is a pneumatic, hold that compressor up. This is a pneumatic compressor. Go ahead and push that button. And it's a very handy tool, but it's also dangerous, so you don't want to hurt yourself with it. So let's go ahead and we're going to get right on that spring there, and then we're going to compress it. Take our keepers out. We'll set our bearing and our spring and retainer aside here. And we'll take the valves out. We're kind of concerned about this head possibly having a crack. Boy, we got some real buildup on that. It looks like quite a few years of running with maybe an out-of-tune carburetor or something of that nature, but that's a lot of carbon buildup on there. Not super highly unusual for something this old, but so there's our port. Okay, so before we can magnaflux that, we're going to have to wire brush it. And one of the things we want to do is we don't want to breathe any of this crud, so we've got this big fan here. I'm going to turn this baby on and make sure that all this stuff blows out the door. So go ahead and wire brush that. Make sure you got safety glasses on. Alright, get that wire brush, Daniel, and let's wire brush this thing.
Just that little part.
Yeah, let's just...
Yeah.
It's alright, just leave it down like that. You notice we're using a wire brush here and not a sanding pad. Worst thing you can do is use a sanding pad on the surface of a head. I can't count the number of people that have brought heads in. They buy those abrasive sanding pads and they literally destroy the surface of a head. So we're going to go around these parts. Okay, now Daniel, if you want to go grab the MagnaFluxer, take a look at this thing. Well, if you look at this, you can see that we definitely had some pitting here. It's definitely showing signs that it had water in this cylinder. Now, I don't know for sure. I mean, we got pitting all over here. We're definitely going to have to, at the very least, resurface this head, which we were going to do anyway. Also, we're going to be replacing the hardened seats in here, or the soft seats rather, with hardened seats. So we want to MagnaFlux this head because we're a little bit concerned here. So this is our MagnaFluxer. Go ahead and plug that in. And what we have here is this is mag powder. It's actually iron that is ground down to very fine, like filings, like a powder. And this is our electromagnet. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay that electromagnet across diagonally, and we're going to very lightly sprinkle that powder on there. And if there's a crack, this will show. And so we're hoping we don't see anything. Well, I don't see a crack there. It is possible that what we were looking at was just water that had gotten into this thing. But you need to go both ways. We need to go diagonally in this direction. Now go ahead and blow that powder off of there. So, yep, we're going to go the other way. Oh boy, we do have a crack. Yep. Look at that. Now we'll try to get a better shot of this here. Go ahead and pull the magnet off there, Dan. And if you take a look here, you can see that we definitely have a cracked head here. Now this is what I was afraid of. Let's see if we can get a good shot of this. The glare of the camera makes it difficult to see. Hold that up. Okay, so what we've got here is we have a crack right here, running right along there, and that's why you MagnaFlux this, and that explains, and hopefully you can see that crack. I'm sure you can. You see how the mag powder is pulled right into that crack? Hold that head right there, Dan. So that crack is running right from here all the way out here. And that's kind of where the rust was built up on this thing too. And if you look over here, you can see that there's a slight crack running in here. So this cylinder head is definitely a boat anchor. Now you could weld this head, but it's such a common cylinder head that it's really not worth welding. At this point, I think we're probably just going to put a set of replacement heads on this motor. It is a numbers matching car, but it's fairly easy to find this Euro 289 heads. I've got several sets here myself. So that is, now the reason that you MagnaFlux this thing first is because there's really no point in doing any of the other machine work to it when it's cracked. So that's why we didn't even waste our time pulling the rest of the head apart. We pulled those two valves out and we MagnaFluxed that cylinder particularly and exclusively because we knew that if there was a crack there, we don't want to waste any more of our labor and our time cleaning this head up or disassembling it. So that's Magnafluxing, and that's where we're at. We do have a junk head, and so we'll deal with that in the next segment. I do have a couple of heads here that I have in mind that we will probably run on this motor, and so we'll deal with that next time. I want to show you one more thing before we quit here. We did get a cylinder head in. Just this has nothing to do with the 289, but just to you know, as a point of interest, we got this cylinder head here, and the guy lost the timing belt in it. So I want you to take a look at these valves here. Go ahead and get down on these valves, Daniel. Bent every single valve in the head and broke some of them off. That's what happens when you don't change your timing belt when you're supposed to. It's probably a good idea if the manufacturer of your vehicle says, hey, change your timing belt at a specific interval. It's probably a good idea. You need to follow what the manufacturer says, because this guy here is looking at a big bill for this thing. He's got all the labor involved, plus he has to pay for 16 valves and valve stem seals and all of that stuff. So change your timing belt. So that's segment 12, I believe, and we will keep plugging along. We'll continue on. We'll see you soon.